Chapter 2, Land and Real Estate. Land. Land is legally defined as Earth's surface, downward to the center of Earth, upward to infinity, and including all things permanently attached by nature. In addition to the surface rights and perennial plants, land includes air rights and subsurface rights, such as minerals, oil, and gas. It is possible to have different owners of Earth's surface or the earth and subsurface rights. Land. Air rights. The surface owner also owns the air rights, which gave the owner the right to reasonable use of the airspace for light and air. It is possible to have separate ownership of the land surface and air rights. Air rights. Subsurface rights. The owner of the land surface rights also owns the subsurface rights, unless those rights have been previously sold or reserved by prior landowner. The owner of the subsurface rights is allowed to remove the underlying minerals, oil, or gas. Real estate is defined as the land, plus man-made additions permanently attached to earth. These additions are called improvements, tenements, and appurtenances. Tenements include any buildings on the land, for example, a house, a barn, a garage, a warehouse, an office, an apartment, and so on. Tenements include any buildings on the land, house, barn, garage, warehouse, office, apartment, and so on. Improvements include sewers, sidewalks, streets, and utilities. Improvements include sewers, sidewalks, streets, and utilities. Improvements include sewers, sidewalks, streets, and utilities. Improvements. Appurtenances are rights, privileges, or improvements that belong to and pass with the property. For example, easements. Easements is the right to use someone else's land. Rights of way, water rights, and mineral rights are all appurtenances. Water rights. Water rights and efficient use of water are vital to the growth and future development of Arizona. Land rights under riparian doctrine. The ownership of land along a waterway depends on whether the waterway is navigable or non-navigable. Navigable waterways. The landowner owns the land to the water's edge at the high water mark, but no land below the water. Navigable is made by the federal government and is based on whether the waterway is used for commerce. The only navigable river in Arizona is the Colorado River. Non-navigable waterways. If the waterway is non-navigable, the landowner owns the land beneath the surface of the water to the center of the stream at the low water mark. Non-navigable waterways. Riparian rights versus literal rights. Riparian rights are granted to owners of land located along a stream, river, or lake. Consequently, someone with riparian rights owns the land beneath the surface of the water. Literal rights are similar to riparian rights. Literal rights are granted to owners of land that borders navigable lakes or oceans. These property owners may have full enjoyment of the water, but they own only the land to the water's edge at the average high water mark. Literal rights are not applicable to any lakes in Arizona because there are no lakes in Arizona that are considered navigable by the federal government. Literal rights are granted to owners of land that borders navigable lakes or oceans. These property owners may have full enjoyment of the water, but they own only the land to the water's edge at the average high water mark. Literal rights are granted to the owners.
Alluvion. Alluvion. Alluvion.
Erosion, evolution, accretion, alluvion, and reliction. A property owner may lose land through erosion or evolution. Erosion is a gradual wearing away of land through process of nature. Evolution is a sudden loss of land, which may occur as a result of a sudden shift in a riverbed, volcanic action, an earthquake, or other cause. Accretion, which is a slow buildup of land by natural forces such as wind or water. The surface land gained by accretion is known as alluvion. Reliction is the gradual recession of water from the usual water mark and therefore an increase in land. Erosion is a gradual wearing of away of land through process of nature. Evolution is a sudden loss of land, which may occur as a result of a sudden shift in riverbed, volcano, an earthquake, or an other cause. Accretion, which is a slow buildup of land by natural forces such as wind or water. The surface land gained by accretion is also known as alluvion. Reliction is a gradual recession of water from the usual water mark and therefore an increase in land. Water use rights. Water use rights are governed by two primary doctrines. The riparian doctrine is generally the basis for water right laws and states where there is abundant surface water. The doctrine of prior appropriation applies to arid regions of the country. Use of water rights. Riparian doctrine. The owners of land bordering the surface waters of a stream or river are granted water use rights. The landowner has unrestricted use of the water. However, the owner may not contaminate or disrupt the flow. Prior appropriation and reasonable use. In Arizona, all water rights are governed by the doctrine of prior appropriation and reasonable use. Prior appropriation is often translated to mean first in time, first in use. The policy of reasonable use declares that users must show beneficial use of water requested and secure a permit. Perfected water rights. A completed and perfected water right is appurtenant to the land and passes with title. Water rights remain valid for 40 years and may be renewed. Water rights remain valid for 40 years and may be renewed. Water rights may be lost through intentional abandonment or by 5 consecutive years of non-use. Water rights may be lost through intentional abandonment or by 5 consecutive years of non-use. Water rights do not grant the holder access to the water sources. Access and right-of-way must be obtained from the owner of the property.
Situs. 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 Situs.
Economic characteristics of real estate. There are 4 economic characteristics of real estate: scarcity, improvements, fixed investments, and situs. Economic characteristics of real estate: scarcity, improvements, fixed investments, and situs. Scarcity. There is no shortage of land on earth. Scarcity means a lack of land in a given area that is suitable for desired development. Scarcity. There is no shortage of land on earth. Scarcity means a lack of land in a given area that is suitable for desired development. Improvements. After improvements are made to a parcel of land, an economic ripple effect may be noticed on the neighboring properties. If a major shopping center is developed in an area of directional growth, it will not be long until apartments, offices, residents, motels, business services will follow in that area. Fixed investments is part of economic characteristics of real estate. Fixed investments include capital investments, labor, improvements such as utilities and sewers, and maintenance. Even a private residence usually represents a largest individual investment of a lifetime and is fixed investments for a long period of time. Situs, part of economic characteristics of real estate. Consider the most important economic characteristics in real estate. Situs, or area preference, is defined as the people's choice of a given area. Situs can be based on a beautiful view of the proximity of employment, schools, or cultural centers. Situs, considered the most economic characteristic of real estate. Physical characteristics of real estate. There are 3 physical characteristics of real estate: immobility, indestructibility, and non-homogeneity. Again, physical characteristics of real estate are 3: immobility, indestructibility, and non-homogeneity. Immobility. All real estate is immobile because it has a fixed location. Physical characteristics of real estate include indestructibility. Land is said to be indestructible. This characteristic is durability, is one of the reasons people think investments in real estate are preferable to stocks and bonds, metals, and commodities. Non-homogeneity, sometimes called heterogeneity, means that no 2 parcels of real estate are alike. Non-homogeneity. No 2 parcels of real estate are alike. Chapter 2, Practice Tests, Reviewing Your Understanding. Real estate is best defined as land, the buildings on it, anything permanently attached to the land and or buildings, and all appurtenances. Physical characteristics of real estate include indestructibility. Physical characteristics of real estate include indestructibility. All of the followings are separable ownerships in land except non-homogeneity. Which economic characteristic has the greatest effect on real property value? Situs. Rights, privileges, or improvements that belong and pass to a new landowner are known as appurtenances. Physical characteristics of real estate include all of the following except situs. Land includes all of the following except street improvements. In Arizona, the doctrine for use of water is the doctrine of prior appropriation and reasonable use. The sudden loss of land due to a shift in a riverbed is called avulsion. The ownership of land next to a stream or river is determined by riparian doctrine. The quality of the location of land and consequently the value of the land can be changed by Improvements to the land that result in accessibility not previously available. Which of the following has the greatest effect on real estate value? Location. The non-homogeneity of land results from the uniqueness of every parcel of real estate. The characteristics of land that causes the real estate market to be essentially a local market is the physical characteristic of immobility. Water rights in Arizona are first in time, first in right. The utilities and streets added to the land are called improvements. A saguaro cactus planted in the front yard of a residence is considered to be real estate. A building added to the land is known as a tenement. The only navigable river in Arizona is the Colorado River. The doctrine that regulates the ownership of lands next to navigable lakes in the ocean is known as the littoral doctrine.